added it now.
Okay, now I have 4 variables, and out of the 4, 3 are the categorical variable and 1 is a continuous variable. I will just add, click on here. I will go to the insert. I will add I will go to insert, then pivot chart, click on here. It will show me the new one. Again, I'm same with the same one. Always click defer layout update. No need to do a defer layout update, because if you click on here, then your if you have a pirated version of Excel, it will get stuck. So I will select the variable which I would like to have. So I have selected the variable, all the 4 variable, but I will drag income into my value. See, this is the way you are going to do a categories, because that's the way it will happen. To close part, I'm not
Sorry
interested.
to
Yeah.
interrupt. Sir, I have an older version of Excel, and in that, for example, if you selected districts, groups, ID 14, and income, there are a lot of columns in between district and groups. So I don't know, somehow in the older Excel, you can't really select columns that are not consecutively together. So how do I do that?
Means I didn't get that problem. So you have the 4 columns and you cannot select 4 them consecutively.
No, sir, I can, but
Hmm.
those 4 columns have other columns in between them. So in that case, I
So
can't.
you select one by one column.
So I tried. It keeps on changing the. If I move from one column to another, it changes the entire selection.
Okay, like
I'm
let us
facing
go
the
one
same
by one.
issue.
Like for
Yes, sir.
instance, like this is the Excel sheet. You can see. So I have selected district. Okay. Then I have selected groups. I have selected ID 14 and income. These are the 4 I have selected.
Yes, sir. But when our old Excel sheet, if we click on X, then after when we click on X, the end selection goes away. So then we can't select D and N together.
Okay, okay.
Sir, also, could you please tell how are you selecting? Because when I'm opening a new sheet, I'm not able to paste the data. So could you just tell us the step in between?
Okay, okay. So now, because I think mine is 2013. So what I have done, I have, see, whenever you want to select entire column, na, you just click on the top. Okay, so this is the way you click on the top. Okay, then either you can do Control C. Okay, and just paste it over here. It will directly come. Or you can do it the manual way. You just the manual way is that you have to take each and every row. Like for instance, I will take entire this one. Like this. I will copy it. I will go and I will paste it here. This is the manual way of doing. Okay, can you do it the manual way?
Yes, sir.
You do it. So which Excel version you are using right now? 2007, 2010?
2007.
So it's fine. Okay, that is. But in 2007, you will not find many of these pivotal features.
Yes, sir. The basic ones are still
Basic one is
there.
there. See, first of all, see this you can get it in a you can use a different laptop and everything. Idea is that how to organize pivotal chart is more important. Okay, the moment you organize a pivot chart, then you can do wonders with the Excel. And then we have to come out with the ratio and the statistics. So statistics anyway we have to calculate manually only, because the book which has been prescribed in your syllabus, they use PS statics, which is the add-on feature in the Excel sheet, and which is expensive to buy. And since you all are students and we are from the developing country, so we will go it manual way of learning the Excel, rather than buying these PS statistics, because I've gone through the book. The book is only basically publicizing the PS statistics as a best version than the Excel. But whatever is freely available to us, we will try to learn these things. See, usually in advanced level statistical analysis, we don't use Excel. This is just only for the beginners. We use like a Stata, eView, SAS. I will give the orientation in the last class, in the next class, what type of a data which we use, which software. And don't worry, there is no hurry. When you will go for your masters and higher education, then you require this kind of analytical tools, or maybe if you want to go for data analytics as a career option. So there we use a lot of R. R is freely available. I will also take a little bit of R in the next class, a basic regression function. But now let's focus on the MS Office Excel right now at this point in a time, so that we will finish the Excel part today. Now you are able to do it manually, everyone?
Yes, sir.
Okay, now I'm selecting this. I'm putting my insert option. I'm putting pivot chart control. Have you reached to this stage?
Yes, sir.
Okay, now I will be taking first I'll be taking income, and I will be putting here in the values, because this is the way you have to categorize your data. And the remaining three I will be putting here. Then groups I'll be putting here. Then ID.
So we just have to put income in the values and all the rest of them in the other axis category.
Yes,
right?
access category, as well as if you want, you can put in the filter also. So in the filter, what will happen? You can filter it out at the different level. So filter setting like this. So you can actually categorize them in many other way. But rather, since we are going to prepare 4-way table, I will put it my groups over here in the axis category. Okay. Now this will look like, completely like a messy, because we have a 3-4 variables. For instance, we have a group. If you click on here, so this is a group variable you can see. Then you also have a district. This many district you are seeing. Now I'm interested to know with this, because districts are the largest one. I'm interested to know only in one particular district, how is my population is spread across. So I will click on the district over here. Okay, I will deselect this one, and I'm interested to know you pick up any district. So I will take the Bhandara district. I will click on here. It will only show me the Bhandara district, and in the Bhandara district there is only one person sample is there, and whose occupation is cultivation. Okay, now if you take another one district, Beed. Now it will show Beed and Bhandara. There are 2 occupations. Now, if you want to see, is there more than one occupation? Yes, there could be more than one occupation. So you can go to ID 14, because ID 14 has a different occupation. But since in our data from the district of Bhandara and district of Beed, only cultivators are there. So it will show it this one. Otherwise, all the options I have selected, it will come automatically. Now just select one more 3-4 district. So I'll be selecting Jalgaon. I'll be selecting Ahmednagar. I'll be selecting Amravati. Now it will show, Ahmednagar, there are cultivators. Amravati, there are agriculture wage laborer, then cultivators and non-agriculture laborer. Then in Bhandara, you have others. Then you have a salaried group, cultivators. Cultivators is there in Beed and Jalgaon. Can you see it? And you can enlarge it. You can enlarge this, and you can actually see. Okay. Now I'm interested to actually just see not only the count of the income, but I'm interested to say what is the average income. So I will go to here in the value, summation value. I will click here. I will put value. I'm interested to know now taking the sum. Okay. Now I have taken the sum. Now, just like in the last class, you remember we discussed about how to create a class interval. So I will take the class interval here. I will click on the sum column, and then Yeah, for the class interval, we have to take only one value, but we will see that. For timing, we will just only focus only on the average income, and this is the average income it is showing for total. And then if you keep on adding, suppose you are interested uh, s- only in Adivasi, just click here. It will only show the Adivasi subgroup population. If you are interested, let's say Dalit, forward caste, it will show this one. See, this is now very interactive. Now you can play around with this data, and this is four way of making the table. This is the 4 dimension you're using. In fact, you can take the whole chart as a pivotal chart, and you can play around with this data. Okay, now I'm going to add here on this table. Now let's add spicers, slicers. You can add a lot of slicers. Slice means what? It will subdivide the data into further small branches, and then you can see the average figures as well as the summation figure also. So the slicers you can add it to any of these. So I'm going to add slices to the group, because group is a smaller variation I have. So I'm going to add the slicer, and then I will just see their income. Okay, so my first slicers indicate the group of Adivasi, then Dalits, then forward caste, and this is their income. Okay, this is their income.
So could you please repeat the step?
Okay, I'm just deleting this. Okay, yeah. Okay, now this is my basic table. Now I would like to know, if I subdivide the group like this here, you can see it in your total column. If I want to subdivide the group, I want to see only in this particular occupation how much is the variation is there. So I add the function called a slicer in this my summation table. This is your summary table. I will add slicer in my summary table. The color combination changes in whatever version you have. If you have a 2016 Excel, that has a much better color combination one. So I will select this table. I will go to pivotal tools. Now here I can add pivotal tools. Here I can add insert slicer. Now if you click on the insert slicer, they will give you uh, for which slicers you want, for which variable you want slicer. So there are district there are 30 district information is there. There are groups, there are ID 14, and there are income. So I will go with the groups because that has a less variation. So I will click here the group, but within the group also I want to see the combination of income. So I'll click here in the income. I will add this one. So it will show you a 3 slices, 2 slices. So this is my social groups, and this is their average income. Okay. So for instance, if you click on this Adivasi, it will show you all the sample population there as from the Adivasi group, their income you will see. If you put forward caste, all their income will come in the forward caste. So you don't have to go to each and every detail every time, go back to the raw data and find out. The slicers will tell you subdivision of groups within that, and you can actually just see, is there any anomalies or is there any, this kind of a method is useful. Suppose like while doing data entry, you may encounter the problem that typological error or something, the statistically it is not been convenient. So slicing method will help you to identify exactly the problem where it is located. Now income might be giving a lot of extrapolation while dealing with the income estimations. So here with the help of a slicer, you can identify, okay, this is the group where the income is not being justified, and you see it is automatically organizing income based upon the sample. Now here you can play around with the data. You can add this data. You can put it in the ascending and descending order. So I'm putting it ascending and descending order. So I'm just have to click first. Oh, sorry, 1 second. Yeah, it will automatically come the ascending and descending order, that if you want, and you can change it. But for that, I have to first change here the groups. So that's the one part. Okay. Is there any doubt for this? Now we will see how to do a class intervals. The second stage. Is that okay? Or am I being too fast?
No, sir, that's okay.
Okay, now let's go and do a class interval. So in the class interval, I need to have a continuous variable, which I have the continuous variable. And you know, in the continuous variable, you remember last class, I told you how to divide the class. So you take the highest number, you take the lowest number, and you divide them, and you will come to know how many classes you want. So here in this column, now it is very difficult for me to identify what is my maximum number and what is my minimum number. So one way to identify is that equal to max. Now it will ask me which area you want. So if I'll put max, it will ask me number one. So I'll put number one is this one. So it shows my maximum value is 8,13,600. This is my maximum value. Okay. So this is my maximum value. What is my minimum value? I will click equal to main. Now it will ask you number one. So you can put number one, you can drill it also like this, or you put simply the array format. So whenever you click on any of these button or any of these row columns, it will show array. So array could be D2 slash, then what is my last one? D101. Now this is my lowest income, minimum income. And I hope you remember our last class we discussed about highest value minus lowest value plus number of classes. So my highest value F3 minus lowest value F4. Now you can actually, because the difference is 8,11,400, and since you don't know how many classes you want, so let's say you want to divide this with the 10. So your each class interval should have a difference about 8 lakh. If you put it like if you put like 10 class interval you want, you can put it 8 lakh 113 8 lakh 13,385 as a range to have a 10 class intervals between 8,000 1306 8 lakh 13,600 to 2,000 from 2,115 to this one. You can do this thing, or you assign you can divide this with the help of like a pivotal chart also. So we will use pivotal chart to decide how many class interval we can have. So similarly, minimum and maximum amount can be done, and we can calculate the class interval. So I will going to select these two. I will go to again with the yes, there are comments. My screen is
So just a question, why did you divide by 10?
you can 10 is my, if I it is a random number I have taken. I want to have a 10 class interval. You can take it 5 also. You can take it 100 also. But you know, the longer you take the class intervals, na, that the table looks very, like a very odd, because how many class interval we have. Generally, we divide this quartile, and we will be learning how I will divide this everything in quartile also. I can divide the entire income into 4 quartiles, or maybe percentile also. That we will also studying today's. But first we use the pivotal chart. What the pivotal chart is actually saying, Then in the second stage, we will go and we will study how, with the help of formula, how we can do this classes also, how we can form the class. Now again, volunteers, just select ID 14 and income. I have selected. Then I will go to insert. I will go to pivotal chart. Wait. Insert pivotal chart and table. New. Again, there are, you must have seen, there are ID and income. These are the two is there. So I will put income in the values. Okay, now income is there in the values. You can put sum. Now this is a sum. Now here, whenever you will click on the sum column, whenever there is a continuous variable, if you do a right click, wait, my pivotal chart has, one second, it's getting slow. I'm just going to hide this because it is hanging. Wait, let me start from again. Take this. To middle chart. Open. I'll put income here and put axis here. And also add filters. Per data layout.
So I think you need to deselect the defer layout option.
Yeah. Some. Put average. Yeah. So you can take the entire average income. You can take the entire income and you can actually do, for instance, the class interval. One second. I'm just taking only one. So if I'm taking only the group, so it will ask me to go for a group one. And here the minimum value, it is already showing 2150, which we have already got from through the manually also, and 8,13,000 is one. So it is showing that we can have 1 lakh as a class interval, so we can form the group if you click. So this is the way the 5 class interval could be made. 6 class interval you can actually make with the help of this. Now if I'll take this as a one, so it like you can add more variable, but the moment you will add more variable, it will ask you again for the new pivotal chart you have to create, and they will ask you to select the data. So I'm just adding more tables. So I'm taking the row now from here to the class interval, and I will be taking data on the occupation group from other table. So here I'll be taking. No, it is not showing. So we have to take both the one. So you got at least how to calculate the this one, like a class interval by grouping.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now right click on this. Okay. It will show you the various values in which you would like to have a percentage. So you can take row percentage. You can take column percentage. Okay. Now means 70% of the uh, 73% has like average income who are actually in the agriculture wage category, and etc. These are the relative frequencies. Now this will be easier if I put count. Now in the count, so 28% of my sample is coming from the agriculture wage category, 3% is the sample is coming from the allied agriculture wage category, agriculture category, 38% sample is coming from the cultivation, 15% non-agriculture, and so on and so forth. And this is help you instead of doing it manually like we used to do it by having like a C4 like this. This is also a way in which you can actually do it. Okay, this part is clear. Is there any doubt? Here also have a class interval. You see differences you will be taking from the smallest to the largest. Index number you can also create. So you can do it now. For the index number, this data is not good. For the index number, you required the long time series data that we will be using it with the another data set. Is there any doubt so far? Or like was I so fast? Please let me know so that I don't mind actually repeating, because in the next 1 hour we will be calculating all the 15 ratio which we discussed, which I discussed in the slides also. Will be calculating all the 15 ratio. So these all ratio will be calculating mean, median, mode, geometric mean, standard deviation, variance, minimum, maximum, range, count, kurtosis, skewness, standard error, variation, and Z test. This will be doing in the next 1 hour. But if you have a doubt in basic chart, just let me know. I don't mind actually going one more time, and I would be happy to answer your query.
Sir, can you please repeat the class intervals, like how to make?
See, in class intervals we use in the statistical language, but when you have it in Excel, they call it the Excel bins. So how many number of bins you want means how many number of a class interval you want. So don't get confused with the classes and bins. Bins are the different categories you'll be making. So let's go back one more time. How to do it? See, it's better, always select one variable at a time when you want to do a class interval. This is my income value. Okay. Normally, like I can do it manually also. For instance, I have to know the minimum value and maximum value, which I have already got it. But then I have to find out how many class interval I should do. I can take 10. I can have, I can divide the classes. Let's say now the difference is very high. If I divide by 50,000, that each class interval should have a 50,000. So this one. So you can.
So, but isn't when we are dividing by 50,000, isn't F4 getting divided by 50,000 instead of the subtraction? Because we're not putting brackets in the subtraction.
Yeah. Sorry. So this 16, it is showing total 16 column. Thank you for identifying this mistake. Now if you'll put 10, it is showing total 8 class interval you can have. Or if you put, let's say 10,000, you can have 80 class intervals you have. It's better to have a smaller one, and this you just put a click, then go to insert. I will just click on income. Okay, but already I have already decided the class interval. So here I will ungroup them first. Now whenever you click on this continuous variable, on if you just do a right click, it will put a group. Okay, so just click on the group. It is showing the starting point is your lowest value, highest point is your 8,30,000 highest value 8,13,600, and here the Excel is suggesting like a 1 lakh should be like a class interval bean or the width of that. So put this many of the class interval it is coming. Or if you are interested to increase the class interval 50,000, I will just go to ungroup them. Then I'll put them in a group. I'm interested only in 50,000. This is the class interval which is emerging. Okay. Is there any doubt?
No, sir.
No, sir. Thank you.
Yeah. So now this is the way we will do it. In the next class, we'll be going with the mean, median, mode, all these commands, 7, 15, 16 commands are there total. And please let me know if I'm fast so that we can do we can do the analysis. Why this analysis is important? I'm just going to just stop my screen and I'll just go back to the lecture notes. Why this is important? See, whatever we do in the class, I will give the one simple example. Like you will be calculating your mean, median, mode. The entire our effort is to calculate, this is by the quantile analysis. So if you are handling with the income, we do a percentile analysis or the quantile analysis, and this is subdividing the entire population into the 4 or 5 quintiles, 5 quintiles or 4 quarters. You can do it. So here I have divided the population, and this is your final result should look like. So this is the from the Human Development Survey. I have subdivided the entire population of the country from Q1 to Q5. Q1 is the poorest household, and Q5 is the richest household in the country. And on your left hand side, you can see the different education status of this. So this quantile analysis is the final outcome which you will be reporting to your papers, which you will be presenting in a various reports. Not the way the pivotal chart. Pivotal chart is just only the one, but you have to process your results also. For instance, whenever we do or I do any kind of analysis, it is just only the part of that, but we also need to know how to put that in a formal like a formal report also. That is also more important, that we will be discussing in the class. So we will be starting with the measurement of central tendency. I will just briefly go through the statistical part, the statistical part, and also like a formulas. Then we will use that formulas using the Excel commands, and we will calculate this part. So let's stop here for 5 minutes, and let's come back in 5 minutes.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So these are the command I have already written from my use book. Anyway, so I'm stopping here. So let's stop for 5 minutes, and let's come back after 5 minutes.
Okay, sir.
View of basic formulas, and then we will go how to how to use that formulas in the Excel one. So in the measurement of central tendency, I hope you know why we required this measurement of central tendency in sampling, because we would like to see how the like a skewness within within the sample populations is, how much they are heterogeneous, what are the variations within that sample, and then can we really say that you can see the patterns about the entire sample distribution, which is normally distributed and which has the heterogeneity. So we use the measurement of central tendency, and then among them, like a sample mean is important to be calculated. So we know the sample mean we calculate, like you take the total number of like a summation of total values that you have in front of you, divided by the total number of persons, or divided by the total number of units which is there that putting that value. Similarly, you can take the median also, one way in which, so average is the one way, and median is the another way where you can have the central tendency. The third one is the mode, and which we can take it. The fourth one is a geometric mean. Geometric mean also could use especially for estimating the consumption expenditures or income expenditures that we use. Then another one, we use it the range, which take the difference between the highest value and the lowest value, and we calculate the variance between that, how much that actually observed value from the sample, how close it is from the median, how close it is from the like a mean, or how close or far away it is from the mode. Then with the help of that, you also we also calculate the sample variance. Now in the descriptive statistics, mean, median, mode is okay. People are interested to know two things: what is the sample variance and what is the standard deviation. The sample variance and the standard deviations help us to see the heterogeneity within the data and dispersibility within the data. So how disperse your data is. For instance, if I will have 10 people in a village, and everybody's income is something around 3,000, 4,000, 3,000, 4,000, which are uniformly distributed, but you will find a one person whose income is, let's say, 1 lakh. Then 1 lakh is an outlier which has a tendency to influence the remaining 9% income distribution also, because that's the limitations we have with the mean. And then in order to understand that variations, how the largest number is influencing the smallest number, we take either sample variance or the standard deviation. Standard deviation is nothing but the square root of sample variance only, and that these two will tell us how much heterogeneity and the variations is there in the country, in your sample population. Why this measure is so important? Because the variation should not be different. Suppose you have taken the sample of 50, the income variation within the sample of 50 should not be different than income variation in the actual population from where you have actually drawn your sample. So sample variance and the standard deviation are these two important like a variable. Then we also have a coefficient of variations. Coefficient of variation, which is nothing but standard deviations divided by your pop sample mean. This will tell us that how the dispersibility of your data is close or far away from the sample mean. So coefficient of variation is another important useful tool we use to look into the variability within the data. And finally, we have a Z-score statistics, which help us to understand the distribution pattern about uh, the sample population you have. So which is like a observed value, which is the X, could be the income of a person minus the sample mean of income divided by your standard deviation. So this is the way in which calculate. And then quartile, third quartile, and this is just a little advanced one, that can we see the variability instead of focusing on the mean, can we look into the quartile distribution also? Yes, we can see, and we will see all of them in soon. So these are my formulas, and I'm using the data which is already there in the PennWorld data. So all of you can go to PennWorld data on this sheet. Uh, okay. So you can take, year, then till employment. You can select these variables. You can open a new Excel sheet. I will open a new Excel sheet here.
Sir, are you showing your Excel?
Oh, yeah. Oh, sorry. I think I'm still on PPT only. So please go back to your raw data, go to PennWorld data. From the PennWorld data, like this one, can you see now?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So select the variable year, your GDP expenditure, then GDP output, population, and employment. These four variables you can select, and you can take them into a different level. So I have calculated them. I have brought it over here. I have already done the calculation, but I will do it with you also. So first one is to calculate the mean. So before that, uh, you can actually see it is a time series data. Data is changing with the time series data. If you want to calculate, you can select here and you can see time series data. You can pick any variable. X-axis is my year, is my X-axis, and GDP expenditure is my GDP figures is my Y-axis. I can see the trend line. So if I want to see, I can see. I can build histogram. I can build trend line. 1 second. Uh, So now here, this is the way it will show. All from 1 to 17 is my year. But now I want to show the year part. So I will just click on uh, chart tool. I will go for a switch row to column. Now select the data. Now I have to take, now horizontal category is this one. So I have to add, edit. So what is my horizontal category? My horizontal category is my year. Edit. Horizontal category. Now can you see my year has been there, and now I have to remove the green one. So I will just take it out. Now this is the way you can see your histogram has been built, and you can see how the GDP is increasing over a period of time. Now here you can actually do a lot of overlap. If you want to have a gradient to flick, or maybe how much type, so you can actually change the width. You can increase the width. You can also increase the transparency. Okay, so you can do many things. This is just only the designing one. Uh, this is the way you can, if you have the basic ways to find out the histogram like this. So I'm just going to delete it because we will be now focusing on the team. So the first one, I'm interested to know what is the average GDP of the source. So average income. So you can put, you can either, you can take this, the manual way is that take the sum of all GDP. I will take the sum. J3, J2, J18. So I have selected, bracket close, divided by how many? 70. Okay, so this is the manual way of doing calculating one. Another one, because it has an inbuilt function, so you can put mean. But you can put mean or maybe average. It will ask you number one. You can put number one and click bracket close. Okay, so this has become my mean. I'm doing it for this one. This way. Now median. So what would be the median in this? If you go it with the, let's say, the manual way, can you see the median over here? And data is already organized into the like ascending order only. Okay, it will take time. So I'll put median. I will click here. Now see, whenever you click on the formula, here you will see number one, number two. Number one are the if conditions. These are the qualifiers in which you have to give Excel a command that you look into a particular row or you look into the particular column. So here, since I'm looking into the one particular column only, I will put medium, click here. I will go here. I will close the box. This is my median. See now, have you noticed if I'm actually copying here and actually putting here, so it will take the another one. So you have to be very careful when you are actually switching the table, because in the Excel sheet, if you simply just put copy, so it will immediately pick up the next row unless and until you fix this one. So I'm just going to put paste over here. Then I'll just only paste only number so that it will show the older one only. So now my mean is there. I have calculated median. Now I will calculate mode. Now here it will show MOD, mode in singular, in mode multiplier. I will go here mode. Now it is asking me number. So again, I'll click here, go here. One second. Why it is showing 118? So in the mode, there are no values which are actually having the highest number of a frequency. That's why it is showing n11 because each value is unique. That's why it is not coming the mode value. Okay. Then let's move on to the geometric mean. Again, geometric mean. It will ask me number. This is my geometric mean. This is mean, median, mode. It is not happening. Now this is my geometric mean. Now let's calculate the max value. It will show the maximum value. The mean. Volunteers, you are with me now because I am actually can't see you. I am just calculating from here.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Then you have to calculate range. Range you can take, like the highest value to the lowest value. So range could be, take this one, J 2 minus J18. This will give you the range. So range is almost minus. Or if you take J to J4, the lowest value and the highest value. Okay. Then count. Now here you will see there are count, then you have a count if and count ifs. So count if is like what we did in the pivotal chart, where count if you put count if, then you get the slicers and then you can have more and more qualifier. But since it is time series data, we don't have that much variation within the data, so we will be using only count. And so it will ask what is the value, and then you will put the value in range. It is showing total 17 counts are there in my data. And 17 means these are the total 17 count is there in my data. And I'll put courtesies. It will show code. It will ask you the value. Now this is my courtesies skewness. My variations within the data. Now you can also see the skewness. See, I told you na, it is just only need to know how the work, the Excel and remaining things are very manual, because it is already preloaded. So now here you will be asked to one. So whenever you will see dot p means they are asking the population skewness, that the whether your sample skewness is equivalent with the population skewness or not. But since we don't have a population data, because in the population data we get a lot of multipliers, so that we use it to understand that. Since we don't have a multiplier and it is very small data set, so we will be using only skew. And I'll be again taking the same variable. This is my skew, like a measurement of skewness here. Then we will be calculating the standard error. I would like to know why the standard errors are important. Since the students of economics, uh, anybody would like to volunteer? What are the standard errors are? Because we often heard this term, the standard errors there in the particular regression equation. Why the standard errors are important? Any volunteer would like to come forward? Ishi, Ria.
Sir, if I'm not wrong, it tells you how close or how precisely it has been estimated. These sample estimates are to the population estimates.
Yes, it tells you how truly and unbiased your estimated variance from the particular sample is there, and how close it is with the population. Mm. The standard error, and if it is higher than the acceptable limit, it means you are overestimating the results. If it is lower the standard errors, you are underestimating the results. And there are two ways in which we judge the standard errors. Either you can call the Z test, which we take it that observed value minus average mean divided by the standard deviation, or we use the p values, probability values, and that's why we say that whether the estimated value from the sample, which is at the acceptable at the 99%. So these are the confidence interval we create, and we see how close that value is with the estimated sample population. Okay. So I'm just closing here. So standard error. Yeah. Can you see the graph? So now it is not taking the S value, but it is already giving you the value. So here they're asking standardize. Then X, they're asking what is the X value. So you can put X here it with this one, comma, what is my mean? So my mean is this one. So you can put the formula. So standardize. Then I'll take my value, this one, comma. My mean is P, P3. My standard deviation. A standard deviation is my value is very high, which is value is very high. Or you can put this one, standard error formula, square root of this one. I'm just copying this. J3 divided by square root of Any value, it will show you the same standard error. J30 or J15. So this is your standard error from the population estimate. Okay. Any doubts so far?
No, sir.
Then we'll put variance. Now go back to the formula of variance. Uh, variance S. See my screen?
Sir, standard error and SE are different.
Mhm.
Sir, what's the difference between standard error and SE?
No, they are same. Only thing is that I have taken the square root of randomly selected variable. So I have taken the randomly selected variable 8. They are the same one. If you put, you put any value. Suppose, like if you take, let's say J4 and J19, it will give you the different results. That how close or how far is your value is there from the square root of any value you'll be taking. So they are the same one. Generally, this data is very short. That's why we don't have that much variation, and that's why the standard error you will see it's very asymmetric. But if you have a large data, that time you can control the standard errors.
Okay, sir.
Now variance you can have two, variance P and variance S. You will taking the variance S. Now this is my variance. Now the next is coefficient of variance. So my formula for coefficient of variance is H18, H19 division of, if you put this is my coefficient of variance of all these things. Then I will put Z test. Again, I will go back to my Z test is my, this is my formula for the Z test. Now Z test formula is not available directly in your Excel sheet. So this is the formula we use for the Z test. So the formula is pick up any observation minus average of that data divided by your standard deviation from that data. So here my Z test data is my J3, J3, minus the mean P3 divided by my. Now here they are asking the standard deviation. So what I have to do, I have to this into the square root, which I already taken. Square root P. Now this is my Z test. You got the formula?
Yes, sir.
Now tell me, now this, what does this Z test indicate here? What does it indicate over here?
Sir, can you put the cursor on the formula so that we can interpret?
I'm putting this one. Now my Z test indicate pick up any randomly selected value. So I will take J2. J2 is my first value. Then the minus my mean, which is P3, bracket close, divided by, now it is asking me use the standard deviation. Now we don't have a standard deviation here. So standard deviation is nothing but the square root of variance. So I'll put SQRT square root. Then what is my variance value here? P and P16. The variance value. Bracket close. This is my Z. This part is clear?
Sir, can you once show us the formula for variance?
Okay. Variance.
Yes.
So you have a variance P and variance S. So we will be taking variance S. Okay, sample. Then you will be taking the range of array of column, closing. This is your variance. Means observed value minus average value divided by total number of n.
Sir, could you please tell for coefficient of variance as well?
Yes, coefficient of variation, take the last value J19, J18 divided by J2. See here in Excel, it assume it is already they are inbuilt in the mean, so we don't have to give repeat it. Like for instance, if we are calculating, let's say manually, so we have to take into account the mean every time. But here it is most of the things that they are inbuilt. Now let's also do the interquartile thing, na? Now here it is showing my quartile. I'm going to divide my quartile. So it will ask me array. So which quartile I'm interested. So I will just select quartile. I will just see the difference. I have given the array. Now, if you put comma, it will ask me minimum value you want to take from the particular quantile. The first quartile means 25th percentile, the median value 15th percentile, and the third quartile, which is 75th percentile, the maximum value. So I will take the third quartile.
Sir, the data will automatically be entered. You don't have to, I mean, you just have to select.
Yes.
Okay.
Quartile I'm just selecting. I think, wait, I will do it here. I'll do it here. Quartile, the array. You can pick up the array. Now it is asking me quartile. So you want minimum value first, second, third. I will take third quartile. So this is my third quartile values are there. I can take second also. Then you have to put second quartile. So if you divide the entire population into 4 quartile, it will give you the 3 different results. So for instance, quartile, first quartile. This is second. Third. Sorry. We put fourth. See here, when I'm actually dragging the formula, you know, notice that my even column, my like a rows were also increasing. So we have to make sure that my rows are only 18, so that I'm not overestimating the result. Okay, always make sure that these are now my the values for the 4 quartile. Now you can actually take the difference and you can calculate the values. Okay, now this is the last value in the first quartile. This is the last value in the second quartile. This is the last value in the third quartile. This is the last value in the fourth quartile. Now you can take you can actually take the difference. For instance, the difference between the first and third quartile, or maybe difference between the first and second and fourth quartile, because it will tell you that how uniformly your observations are distributed. Like you must have seen Oxfam every year they come up with the inequality reports and they say that top 10% of the India's or maybe top 5% of the India's richest like a person's control 60% of the wealth. So they basically do this interquartile analysis and they plot these kind of figures. So interquartile analysis is important since our data is very small, only for let's say 17 years. But imagine that if you have a data of let's say lakhs of people, how will you do that? So there you require little more this kind of statistical tools that can actually divide the data into this one. Okay, now let's learn from one more the correlation, you know, like generally we see now, is there any correlation between let's say employment, population and employment? Do you believe, is there any correlation? Yes, theory says that there is a correlation. So let's check also the correlation. So correlation. Now it will ask you two array, means two different variable you have to give. So in the first array, one comma, my second array, which is I'll close the bracket. It is showing correlation is 0.96. So whether it is highly positive or it is weakly positive.
So it's positive.
Yes.
Highly positive.
It is highly positive. It is highly positive correlation. Okay. So now this we have seen so far. Now you can also do it for percentile, you know. This same you can do it for percentile. So percentile again, percentile. Now here it will ask you percentile EXE and percentile IXE. So percentile EXE you can calculate. And you can put EXE means from your examples, you can put any 0.1, 0.2 at how much is the percentile you want. So again, I'm going to put my data range. I have put my data range. K, you have to give which percentile you're looking. So I will give 0.8. On my 0.8 percentile, this is the value of GDP. And you can go till 10th. I can also put 0. Keep on going that far. Okay. Now, so far we have done this, all the basics of central tendencies. This is now available with the Excel. These are the commands are available. Now, suppose you want to study the patterns about, you know, like estimations, like regression we use. And generally we use regression to find out, you know, the association between the two variables, the how the independent variable impact the dependent variable. So regression has the Excel has an inbuilt linear function, which we do not call the regression, we call the linear estimation. So lean east is the variable it will show. Now it will ask you, what is unknown y and what is what is known y and what is known x. Now so far, we don't have information about what is like a known y. So here, whatever observation we have in front of the sample, so we'll take y. I believe that my employment, my employment is dependent upon the GDP, and I believe that the GDP influences a lot. So I will put on my y, which is my dependent value, as my employment series. Then I'll close this one. I'll go on my x is my. Now here, I don't know whether the relationship exists or not. So Excel give me two value, whether b is equal to 0 or b needs to be calculated normally. So b is equal to 0 is that if your hypothesis is true that GDP figures influences the employment, then you will accept or reject the offer. So false is that your null hypothesis that b is equal to 0 means the relationship does not exist, and your true value is that b is equal to 0. So I'm believing that the relationship exists. So I'll put b is equal to false. True. Now again, uh, now here you would like to have you want to add more and more covariates. For that, return to your additional statistics. No, I do not want to return. I'll put, and I will close the bracket. Now this is my estimated value of the regression, estimated value of my beta. Now it shows that my relationship is there, which is I reject the null hypothesis. If any value goes above 1, so you reject the null hypothesis and accept the alternate hypothesis. If any value goes like a less than 1, so you do the other way, right? So you accept the null hypothesis and reject the alternate hypothesis. Okay. So this is the basic thing we do it in regression. This is a linear regression. Now here you might say, ask, sir, where is the R square? Where are the residuals? Yes, the residuals are not there, and that's why many people do not use Excel model to calculate the regression, because that you have to do it manually. So one way to understand the relationship between the two. So what I can do, we can just I will just copy paste this, and we will add the trend line. So we will just see the trend, the same one, employment. You guys are seeing my screen, na?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm
Yes,
just
sir.
putting it here. I'm interested to know the trend line. So you go to here, go to insert, just put the scatter chart. Okay. So wait. Mm, scatter plot. Yes. Now here it is showing the relationship is positive because it is increasing. Here you will go to +1. They will ask you add a trend line. If you click, now there are four options you will be coming: linear, exponential, linear forecast, 2-period moving average, and so many other things. Like if you click polynomial, so let's assume that linear. Hmm. Now display equation. I'm not going to set any intercept. Display R squared value on the chart. Okay. And yes. So can you see now my linear regression is now here I have not made so far assumption about y and x. So that's why it will show, and it will show you both, your R square value and this one. So now this 1e.0, have you seen this value? This is my beta coefficient, which is exactly the same value of this, which I have got it from my linear estimation. You got these two values are same. So now here in the linear estimation, you cannot see the R square value. That's why we have seen the trend line, and you will see the R square values, which is 0.91%, which shows that the correlation. I'm sure this correlation you have seen here. And you can also see the correlation of the same two, whether it is matching or not. So we will also see the normal correlation of the two variable. So it is showing 0.95, but in the regression it is showing 0.91. It's more or less like it's the same only. But now here it does not mean the causality. So GDP does not influences the employment. Means it influences the employment, but that does not mean the causality. You have to see the other factors also, and that's why we have to add more and more variables into regression format. That in this kind of a exercise, it cannot be possible if you have more than one variable. But one thing is that from here you can say that yes, GDP influences the employment, and this is my estimated coefficient, which is 1. So will I accept the alternate hypothesis, or I'll reject the null hypothesis, which says that my null hypothesis says that my beta value is equal to the 0. Means there is no relationship exists. But I will accept the alternate hypothesis. There exists a relationship, and that's why the relationship is there. So this is the way we do the analysis in uh, in Excel. In the next class, I'm just sending you right now this entire file. It has all the formulas. I would ask you to pick up any table. I will ask you people just repeat what it is there. To get yourself to get accustomed to that, and just practice it. Just play with it. It will take a couple of hours, and then you will do a marvelous. You can take any data. You can download any data. Go to Reserve Bank of India website. From the Handbook of Statistics, you can take any data, but that data will be long. So it's better to play with the small data, and then you can do marvelous things over here. Uh, and if you really want to know how we do it in real life, uh, if the time permits, I can show you how the data looks like and how we calculate the regression. Do we have a time? Monali ma'am, do we have a time? Can I show them? Just for their curiosity.
Sorry,
Sir,
I
I
had to
can.
unmute myself. We have about 15 minutes because we started 10 minutes late. We can go on till 35,
Okay.
40.
So can I show them little bit of advance, because this is the basic stuff. In the next class, we will be doing the regression in the Excel only, Z-test and p-value test in the final class. So these are the basic descriptive, but I wanted to show you how in real world we calculate the regression. If you are interested, I can show you, quickly what exactly I'm doing right now.
Sure, go ahead. Rahul, whatever you planned for today, just I think you should finish it and then.
Yeah. So in real world, we do not use the Excel. I'm just going to stop my screen. We use the Stata. I will just show you how the Stata looks like. This is just for your knowledge. You will be learning Stata in different classes. Maybe your econometric teachers will teach you that. Now this is the Stata we use it, and this is also I have taken it from the pirated version, the Stata. Now this is our file edit data profile. This is our command profile, and all the results appear here. You can see the data. Now I'm going to use the same data which we have used for calculating this one. So employment and GDP. Just copy paste the data. Uh, can you see the screen, all of you?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so now this I have already pasted the data. This usually we don't paste, we import the file, but now this is only small exercise. And now again, doing the same regression exercise. So for instance, if I want to do the same exercise, for instance, how much is the tabulator form, like we did the frequency. So we just tab, we don't go to pivotal chart, we just give a tab command over here, and it will show me both how many frequencies are there, percentage and cumulative. So you don't have to cut, copy, paste multiple files and then you have to calculate that. So it will simply will show me how much is the percentages and also the cumulative frequency. Okay. It will also show me the regression equation what we have studied. So it is just have a now here my y variable is my employment, my independent variable is my g. I will just copy and you will see the results. So there are total number of 17 observations are there. My F value is 167. Here we use probability value, not the Z test. So probability value is 0, it means it is a good sign. And my estimated coefficient is 0. So it is showing it is positive, but the effect is not significant. And this is more important, like sum of square, module, residual sum of square, like adjusted R square. These are the values you require. And here in today's class, we have seen the T value, Z value. So here we use the P value here for this one. And here you can adjust the confidence interval also. So when you actually report the data, it is much better, easier way. Actually, you can copy paste and then you can paste it the data in your final paper also. But we don't copy paste this entire folder. We only copy paste this one, and we only report this table in real world. So this is the way the Stata we usually handle, and the similar way the R is also been handled. R is has a much more better graphics than the Stata, but Stata is very good for if you are handling the panel data and the cross-sectional data. Uh, 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 and it has a added advantage functions also. You can change the variable, you can also change the mean value, median value, depends upon your model specification. So this one is the much better one as compared to Stata, as compared to Excel. Now in the Excel we have to calculate each and everything. Excel will give you value only this coefficient. Now here you will see the standard error is reported. The standard error is 1.00, which is quite high. And this value is been reported. And this value like 0.91, it's come from your correlation values. So these are values are available here in Stata in other program, which is not possible in the Excel sheet. So with this, I will stop here. And if you have any doubt, I would like to take, just wanted to see the curiosity. And this is where we work mostly in almost all economics. And I wish that all of you who are going to pursue your career in research or even in academia get hand on all this software, but start from the Excel first and gradually you will learn. So if you get mastery over the Excel, this you will be automatically you can learn from there. So if you have any queries, feel free to ask me, would be happy to address them.
Sir, I had one question. Sir,
Yes.
that in quartile, what is the difference between EXC and INC? Because I'm trying to use the formula of quartile and the option is coming to choose between EXC and INC.
Okay. Now can you see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So now quartile. So you have to go to EXC is from your expected value. INC is which is inbuilt value. But we are going to use quartile, this last one. Okay. Then they will ask you first array.
Sir, but in my case, I'm not able to select the quartile option.
Why?
It's coming, this function is available for compatibility with Excel 2007 and earlier.
Okay. Okay. Now then we will go to the Excel. Okay. Expected value. So it will show array. Array means select the row. I'm taking the employment row. Now, once you click on that, it will ask you it is not going to give you, if you put the expected value, it will not give you if you are on the 0th quartile, means the first value, and it will also not give you the last one. So it will not give you the first value and the last value, means quarter from 0 to 25th. You will not get the value from that, from the 0 value, if the quartile is 0, and also if the quartile is 100. So that's the only limitation you have. You will only get only 3 quartile here, like first one, median, and the third quartile. That's the only difference you will get. So if I'll take median, which is 2, and this is nothing but this is the value, my median quartile. And actually, if you divide this one, like, it is the 9th value you are actually going to get the quartile. If you put the third quartile, which is 75th, 590, 509. So it will be somewhere between the average of these two. This is your quartile. Your value lies in the fourth quartile. Third quartile lies here, somewhere in between.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, I hope you remember that there is an interquartile formula is there, na? Q3 minus Q1 divided by N.
Yes, sir. We have that in our book.
Yes. Is there any doubt so far?
I guess there are no doubts. Good session, Rahul. We'll see you tomorrow for the last session. And,
No, day after tomorrow.
I hope you are having a good time teaching us.
I'm enjoying. I told you last night only. I was so excited because this is also new learning, because nobody actually, this is the first time I'm seeing that, okay, Excel been taught for the undergrad. They should be taught, SAS and these advanced packages. But
I know. It's like, Stata and SAS should be taught, but it's okay. I mean, we have to start somewhere. So thank you very much for today, and we'll see you tomorrow. I'll send a new link. Looks like these links,
tomorrow,
we are
day
not
after
making
tomorrow.
repetitive. Oh, we have a day after tomorrow. Right.
Yes.
Thank you for correcting me.
So
So
day
we'll
after
see you day
tomorrow,
after
I will
tomorrow.
take you to the like a only regression based analysis and cross sectional and panel data for those who are interested.
Okay. Thank you, Rahul. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Bye,
sir.
everybody. Yeah, we'll see you day after
Thank
tomorrow.
you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much, sir.
Bye.